Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy early start to this nice Monday, a new week of new opportunities. It's raining outside and it's raining on price action right now as well in the short term. Anyways, with that in mind, I did want to make a quick little note to shout out good old Altcoin Daily. Good guy over there, and actually just had a nice little interview. So if you're interested in some more long-term price action analysis, that video is still very much relevant. And other than that, I think it's time to just jump right on into it. So let's start it off right over here with the big bad chart, the one chart to rule them all, the one chart that I've been harping on probably the most over the past few weeks, and it is the volatility versus stochastic momentum chart. The volatility of stochastic momentum I should denote right here as represented by this moving metric that my cursor is currently tracing. And basically anytime that we have seen it get down to extremely low levels, of which you can identify by these green vertical bars. In fact, obviously we just had, the last most recent one right here, obviously. The expansion phase from these extreme lows has led on to an average move over the course of the past couple of years of about 23.76% down over the course of just over 8.5 days. And the stochastic momentum oscillator has gone the correct direction on that volatility expansion for about 90% of the time. And obviously this is going to tick up here because it is once again well gotten it. So in this case, we have another iteration which has been driving our downside buy since about the 17th to 18th of August when we started to get expansion on the daily volatility right here alongside a down movement on the daily stochastic momentum oscillator. Now here's the thing. Momentum on the daily will remain to the downside as long as Bitcoin is closing on the daily for CME specifically below 24,200, this number right here. So downside pressure resumes essentially coming into this week into this day, as long as that condition is met, which, would be about a $3,000 rally in about 13 hours, 53 minutes and 50 seconds. So likely to continue. Anyways, if we were to take this average move, I would remember that it is an average, there's some variance in there, some going to be higher, some going to be lower, obviously. If we were to take the average move there, that would imply from our current high about a nice, 23. Yeah, there we go. About a move somewhere just below 20,000 bucks, basically between 19 to 20,000. As you can see, if you want to be super exact on the actual average, that would be about 19,500 or so, which is basically around the 786 Fibonacci retracement, which I do kind of like the confluence for a move like that. If we are going to see this one continue, of which, as long as this condition is active, I look at that as relevant and valid. And until we do see the signal essentially, what's the word that I'm looking for? Ended, if you will, that will be notified when the actual daily stochastic momentum oscillator crosses the upside. So today, quite unlikely. So in that case, I wanted to bring you over to this chart over here, which can kind of give us a bit of a range as far as what to expect in the case of worst case scenario, best case scenario. In this case, I do think that this one over here, more or less a best case, or maybe not best case scenario, but a more likely scenario for an upper bound on where we find the end of this dumbola. Again, keep in mind that this is not relevant to the lower term time frames. This is only relevant to the daily and above. And if we go over here to the 2-day time frame chart, we can come up with another metric of which I really do like the results on this one. It has actually been even, I wouldn't say it's more consistent than the last signal that we looked at, but it is a very, very consistent signal nonetheless, and it's been driving biases for a long time now, back tested much further going back to the last three and a half years here. Anyways, the signal is this. The 2-day time frame with the 2-day BBWP, which represents volatility as well, but completely different calculation from the volatility indicator that we just looked at. When that gets down to extreme lows, which are defined as below 10 percentile, the expansion phase from those extreme lows has led to an average move of 37.33%. Obviously, this one is higher than the past one because, well, that was a daily. This is a 2-day time frame, so theoretically the signal should be stronger, right? And it is, and it quite literally is. We've seen several of them even in the past few months here. This was driving our downside buys from that $40,000 to $30,000 move, then again from 30,000 to 20 or below 20, I guess, and then on that last move to the upside that we did see, which was about a 33.85% move. Anyways, in this case, the average move based off of this signal has been about 37.33. Average days taken to the next major high or low was just under 19 days, and the stochastic momentum oscillator has gone the correct direction on that volatility expansion just over 83% of the time. Obviously, this one is also downside angled and will be remaining with downside pressure as long as Bitcoin is below 24,600 460 or so. And this one's again closing tonight. So again, short-term downside pressure here. And if we were to apply that average move, again, keep it in mind, there's some variance here, but even the last 1, 2, 3, 4, which we've seen in the past 6 months here, have all been above 30%. I should add, well, that would imply if we're going to go 30%, I mean, that would be basically the current lows of about 18,000 bucks. I think 37% puts Bitcoin somewhere in the mid 15s. So I personally, the stats are the stats, right? I just want to be presenting them in the most clean ways possible. Personally speaking, I don't think that looking at $15,500 is relevant as of right now until Bitcoin obviously does one thing, which is basically close on new lows. I know that's not too helpful, but until then, I would kind of be running with this prior estimation over here as a more reasonable one, at least give Bitcoin a chance to, to bounce off the lows and then perhaps come back to it after that. So again, that's kind of like worst case scenario in my opinion for right now. And if we're looking at the days taken on this first signal, I should have addressed this earlier, I apologize, but about 8.5 days. This signal started officially on the 17th, let's say 18th, give it a little bit of a leeway there. So 18 plus 8 is what? Is 26. So we're looking around the end of this week, for this one to play out. Again, on average, there's going to be some that are higher, some that are lower. You can see even the past 6 months here, 4 or 5 months right here. We have signals that take as long as, 11 days, some as small as 5 days. Obviously, we're already kind of at the 5-day marker, but ultimately, probably around end of this week is more reasonable. Maybe even into the early portion of next week, of which that's basically the end of the month. Of course, I've made my thoughts known about September. I think rather aggressively, of which it's not necessarily my thoughts. Just in general, Bitcoin has not been great in September. Let's say in general, Bitcoin typically closes on a down month in September, but I will point back to yesterday's long-term video to address that topic. Or actually, no, I didn't address that topic in yesterday's video. Well, we can get to that one tomorrow. Perhaps it's going to be more relevant, I guess. But for right now, kind of best case scenario, worst case scenario is what I'm looking for reasonably in the next few weeks. Of course, on the 2-day time frame chart, the average days taken is just under 19 days. So that would put us into September. Kind of coincides with September, being a down month as well, potentially as far down as those numbers. Anyways, moving on here, let's get into the relatively shorter term timeframes. I wanted to come back over here, address the 2-day time frame, because the 2-day time frame does obviously have hidden bearish divergence that was confirmed upon, I think this was Friday's closure, or maybe it was sometime late last week. That was confirmed right there, obviously. And then the 5-day is going to be confirming today for CME. Obviously, spot price action has, I believe, already confirmed it. Or sorry, no, it confirms tomorrow. But very, very likely to hit right there. Anyways, the 5-day on CME will close tonight. And if it closes anywhere below 22,400, that will be confirmed, and you'll have hidden bearish divergence between the points over here in the May highs at just above 30,000 bucks versus the highs that we're looking at right now, which is basically 24 to 25,000 bucks. And hidden bearish divergence on a time frame like this, probably going to be good enough to get things back down to the bottom side of the range. That kind of coincides with a $19,500 target or so. So I do like the confluence there as well for Bitcoin kind of coming back to the current lows. The Boolah hopium is that Bitcoin holds those lows, puts in an ever so slightly higher low, while everyone gets super fucking bearish, and then flips back around above our current pivot at 25,000 bucks. That would be really, really good, coming into the end of the year for a nice big rally, if you will, if you can imagine that right now. Obviously, the weekly actually has already confirmed hidden bearish divergence between, again, this point and this point. It's actually a lot more exaggerated here than the 5-day. And I would argue that this one is certainly already confirmed. It's just, we do have a big range here. So theoretically, Bitcoin could rally up as high as 22,500 bucks basically, and still maintain that posturing and bearishness here. Moving on, if we do reference the 5-day stochastic momentum oscillator, that will turn down on spot price action, not on CME, but on spot price action, which again does not close tonight, but tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. This is going to be the next big signal, at least in my opinion. If Bitcoin closes below $21,000, which right now it's 300 bucks above, that's kind of a sneeze. And if Bitcoin starts to play out, that daily signal that we identified earlier, that's just going to be further confluence for, a bigger downside move, at least into the mid 19s, I'd imagine. The 2-day time frame we already know it's already turning down. And then the weekly, will turn down below 20,100 at the end of this week. So a long time left to go. Not really even worth talking about right now. Same thing on CME, below about 20,600 or so. All right, sweet, or well, maybe not so sweet for many bulas out there. Let's go check out the lower term timeframes here. So this is the 6 hour. 6 hour stochastic momentum will actually be turning up if Bitcoin can basically close above 21,300. I would make a note that it's like at extreme levels right here. So it really wouldn't take too much to get Bitcoin on a short-term bounce. So now we're really juxtaposing the higher term timeframes like the daily, 2-day, 5-day, weekly versus the very low term timeframes like 6 hour and under. And again, it wouldn't take too much to bounce from these regions. When the 6 hour gets into these sort of regions, we have observed many bounces in the past. I'll just mark off a few of them right here, or I already have marked off a few of them. Actually, these do not count for the 6 hour, but it would be this one. We have another one right here, and any other ones? Yep, right here. And do we have another one right here? Yes, we do. All of these were like decent bounces. They all ended up eventually failing, obviously, but they were decent bounces nonetheless. So I did want to identify that as, I would say that if Bitcoin does take another leg down here, again, it's very likely to bounce in the short-term timeframes before having higher-term timeframe continuation to the downside. So it's not all going to be just like one massive girthy red dildo to the face. It's probably going to be in a few green dildos to the face and then a few red dildos back onto the face. If we go to the 4 hour, the 4 hour is also pivoted around the same region. 21,200 going to be the magical number right there. Again, in very, very extreme levels right here. So it's just hard to keep momentum this extreme to the downside in the short term. 3 hour, same shit, way the fuck down there. 21,100 going to be the magical number. And then the hourly is probably flippy floppy right now, but actually down below 21,400. So maybe one more swipe of the lows, maybe a little bit lower in the short term, but I would be preparing for bounces, relatively soon on the short term timeframes after maybe one more drive to the downside. Going on over here into the lower term timeframes, just kind of marking off ranges. Same shit as before, basically. Bitcoin is trying to base off of the 618, which is basically this region here between about 20,700 to basically the current low of like 20,900 or so. That would actually be exactly on the 618, as you can see. All right, and this should actually be a little bit lower. Did we have that right? No, sorry, we do not have that right. Let's get that actually proper. Yeah, about 20,800, give or take about, $150 from that number right there. All right, sweet. And ooh, my trade is about to hit right there. Lovely. Yay, that's good. All right, back onto it. So apologies on that. I also did wanted to note that, hey, lower term time frame BBWP, again, at extremes here, it can stay extreme for a little bit longer, into midday, maybe around the time that US markets open, but ultimately, we're probably setting up for a short-term time frame bounce relatively soon after one more drive to the downside, potentially getting down to those next major targets. I would really only look for, however, that next move into the mid-19s if and only if Bitcoin closes below this low over here, which was about 20,600. Yeah, about 20,700 or so on CME. If you see something like that, then yeah, I suppose Bitcoin's probably gonna make its next move down below about 20,000 before the next bounce attempt. Holy fucking moly, nicely done, baby, nicely fucking done. There we go. All right, there's my trade for the day. I'll take it. Nice one. And so that's basically kind of where I'm at right now. Other than that, is there any sort of invalidation for a short-term move to the upside? Yeah, if Bitcoin can pop back above and close above 20, even like 21,700 in this case would be okay, at least for a rally back up above 22,000. But again, anything below 22,500, I still look at this as more signals to the downside than the upside, just with short-term bounces in between there. All right, sweet. I think that's a good place to leave this one off. I want to be wishing you the best as always, and make a quick note to share my Instagram. I've been posting a lot of trading related and untrading related content there. There's a link in the description below. Also, we got Bybit offering 50% off of their options. If you are an options trader, you can use the link description below to get that promotion. I think even like BitGet has one of their trading competitions going on right now as well. So I think with all of that said, it's time for me to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.